Hello, Boy Meets World fans. Thanks for being here. Welcome back. If you don't mind, hit that like and subscribe button for me. It would really help me out. Either way, I appreciate you being here. Today we are talking about episode 9 of season 1, Class Preunion. The plight of the middle child is a very real thing. I like that, shortly after Alan says, "Don't be careful with my video camera," he drops it. Grounded. How to deal with it. We're America. We're independent. We don't need British goods. We'll get our stuff from Japan. And is every boring guy in history named George? Funny. Minkus' crush on Topanga is so cute, but it's just like, I like her response. Minkus, I appreciate that you would consider me for your potential life mate, but I'm not sure I recognize marriage. Betsy and her, let's see, when you have your 20th reunion, I'll be 44. How's that possible? Oh, it's possible. And that's just the way it's going to be. Morgan switching the gold necklace for the plastic one. Oh, so crazy. The fact that the mom of the other little girl actually was like, black, no trades back. Like, oh, that is so frustrating. Immature. Minkus is all captain of industry, and Sean's a tire salesman. My dad's fat, I'll be fat. Topanga is the president of a peaceful world, and men are breeding stock. I love when Minkus is like, we're married. She's like, you're breeding stock. I'll take it. I like that Marty dressing up as Mr. Feeney backfired. Of course Mr. Feeney would see through that. Mr. Feeney giving Corey an incomplete for his future, and then Corey being upset about it and being like, you took away my future. I don't know. I always kind of like, did he though? I mean, he's trying to teach you that lesson, Corey. I do love the little talk that Corey and Alan have about his future. But at the same time, it's kind of funny because in this episode, we see Alan talk about how he wanted to be an architect. And so later, when he changes careers, I always kind of think it's funny that he's like, not wanting to go back to school or whatever to do that. But he does find his path. It's true what he said. Dreams change as you get older. It's unreal to me that any grown adult person would not immediately give that necklace back, because that is just so petty and crazy to me. But no one was a match for Morgan. I love that she got everything back. Getting the car keys was great to drive that point home on how ridiculous the other woman was being. And I loved that Alan brought the baseball pitcher over to the house to give Corey a boost to his dream. I love that Corey and Eric kind of have that mutual moment of screaming about their excitement. Do kids even know what telegrams are anymore? 63 telegrams. That's impressive. I always love Minkus showing up with a basketball instead of baseball. Mr. Feeney giving him all of his balls back that he'd ever held on to. Reminds me of that movie, The Sandlot. Marty was in that too. Connections. The ending scene is cute, but it's like, wait a minute. So did he break the camera? I'm guessing not, because it's still working. The look on Alan's face is everything. Hey everybody, we are talking finally about episode 9, Class Preunion. So I'm also going to be tacking on my thoughts for Lance Bass podcast, and of course the Q&A podcast, because that was 4 total. So this video will be longer, but throw a like and subscribe my way if you feel inclined to do so. And let's jump in to my thoughts on number 9. So I totally didn't know about the candy drawer or the gum wall. So I totally learned something new. And now I'm going to have the whole gum under tables thing stuck in my mind everywhere I go now. So it's kind of gross because it's totally gross to do that. I don't know why this is a thing. 12 to 15 Cokes a day, Will? Geez Louise, okay? Like, and cigarettes? That is such a teenager move, especially when you're on your own. Okay, the fact that Mr. Plays with Squirrels is going to be doing a Q&A at this live makes me want to go even more. I know that is going to be a night to remember. I think it is wild that Jim Abbott had no idea that he was going to be on the show, and like they said, he did so good. So it's like, bravo to you. But if he was doing a lot of speaking events, that might have helped that situation. But to be kind of thrown onto a TV show is different. So bravo. And I love that they didn't mention his disability, because that was just another example of how Boy Meets World did things so uniquely and differently, and just keeping it very classy. So a Philly fan and a Yankee player. That is a good point. I guess they just did need a ball player, sports ball, as Ryder said. And, I remember when my family got a video camera. I also remember when we got our cell phone the first time. It was wild, everybody. And now everybody has cameras in their cell phones. Crazy. I guess Eric really was the forgotten child, especially at the beginning. I think he had to it's almost like he had to work his way to be remembered. But I think the oldest child does kind of get forgotten with the other kids for sure, in my experience. So I definitely can understand that feeling. I identify with that. And I did notice that Corey said best friends as in plural. And I was like thinking, wait a minute, that your best friend is Sean. You don't have more than one best friend. So crimping hair was a huge thing in the 90s, and I'm really hoping that they don't bring that trend back, because no. So I equally like the response that Topanga gives Minkus and the whole concept of marriage, because it's just another way of showing how uniquely written her character was and how well she delivered those lines. And while I think it might have been funny for a little while to keep Minkus in the mix, but, kind of pursuing Topanga at the same time, because of how cemented Corey and Topanga kind of became early on, I don't know how well that would have lasted, how well that would have worked, and for how long it would have lasted. Will's attention to detail is kind of everything on this podcast. He's so funny. I love it so much. And that juice really did sound gross that they were describing. The throwback to the Home Improvement bark, I loved, because I loved that show and I still do. And Will is so I love that Will is so funny, because that shows that his actual personality really came through as him playing Eric. And it's just, he's delightful. Makes a good point. Feeney didn't call Topanga out on the age for president. It is kind of wild. But again, it's about Corey. And her line about the whole men are for breeding stock was always kind of funny to me. But again, this goes to show, with her character and the way she delivered lines, it really worked. I think in the hands of anyone else, it may not have worked. It may not have been as easily accepted or received. And Will makes a good point. Normally a character like Topanga would be very annoying, but she wasn't. She was very lovable. Will's Amish accent was everything. And I do agree, they definitely need practical life courses in schools. And I didn't notice the showgirl thing either until Will pointed it out. See, attention to detail. It's everything. I think an improv podcast with these three could be fun, but maybe just one episode, maybe not a whole podcast, because improv can get kind of hard. I really appreciated when Alan kind of let Corey know, hey, Mr. Feeney is your teacher. He's great, but he's not omniscient, as they said on the podcast, because that's so important for parents to kind of, take the reins sometimes. And I agree with Will. The rich mom not giving the necklace back was kind of ridiculous. So, the telegram thing is so funny, because it is such a throwback. And it is just so funny how they segued into Will's kind of upbringing with that. So that was hilarious. And speaking of kicking it old school, AOL is Will's ride or die. I want to believe he's true on that. Do you think he's being honest? Because is AOL even still around? Is it a thing? Really? And I do have to agree, Corey videotaping his parents is a little, ooh, like, what is this? And then, like, the crop top on Rusty/Alan, like, does he really have a fairy tattoo? Was that a joke? I really couldn't tell. And the letter at the end, oh my God, all the feels. So Lance Bass being on the podcast was really cool because I actually knew that she dated Lance Bass, but I'll be honest, I kind of thought it was for publicity, so I had no idea that she dated for so long. I mean, she was really good at keeping her relationships on the DL. The down low, for those of you who don't know. And just so you don't know, and this in case you don't know, NSYNC and Backstreet Boys were the heavy hitters of the 90s boy band. So I kind of love that she chose NSYNC over Backstreet Boys. And it's so funny to me that Justin is the one that got Danielle's number for Lance. So I can totally see why they're making a movie. That's cool. Oh my gosh. Danielle not thinking about Lance's popularity and bringing her to a prom is kind of adorable. And her mom being the one to ask her if Lance was gay is just wild. I totally didn't realize that Lance had talked about his relationship with Danielle and Jay Leno, but I really wasn't watching that back in the day. I think it's really sweet that she was so in love with him, and yet they can still be such good friends to this day. That's really cool. The idea of Danielle wearing wigs to try to disguise herself to go see Lance when they were dating is so funny. And you have to think about it because we didn't have the social media aspect back then, and you could still get spotted, but like now it's so much worse. So like there are definite things in my own life that I'm like, yeah, I'm glad social media didn't exist back in the day. I didn't know that Will had a stepdaughter. That's cool. And Lance having a 90s club, I love that. Okay, and I cannot wrap my brain around the idea that Will could not find a date for prom. Crazy. So I was in California this past weekend, and I have to say I can reconfirm that yes, the In-N-Out fries absolutely do suck. I already knew that, but I wanted to try them one more time just to make sure. The heart and the peanut butter from Danielle's mom. So cute. Lovely kind of little magic trick there. I love that Will's wife still gives him snack bags with notes. That's amazing. And I really love their friendship. I love how they have such a good rapport, and it really just adds to the podcast. It makes it that much more enjoyable, and I am completely entertained when I listen. So, like, I wish that I could go to the live show, but, like, I hope they record it, you know, maybe later or something for the rest of us who can't be there, because I feel like it's going to be just awesome. And I love that Ryder took his Sean jacket, but it sucks that it got stolen. I mean, like, ugh. Okay, Dr. Papson instead of Dr. Pepper, that's phenomenal. And I think Will wins for best kept memorabilia from the show. And I love that Danielle was wearing Lucille Ball's shoes. That is so iconic. But then I'm like, now that they told us that they switched things out, I'm kind of thinking, how many celebs did that? It's kind of interesting. It's like, were those Lucille Ball's real shoes? I don't know. So, and it's cool that they want to go back and check out the clothes. Like, that would be a very, very 90s clothes vault for sure. Yay for Mr. Turner as a future guest. Totally down for that. And can I just say, Danielle, I'm like living vicariously through you because, lady, you have dated two of my all-time crushes back in the day, Jonathan Taylor Thomas and Matthew Lawrence. I am living vicariously through you. But I think everyone kind of had a crush on Leo. I really didn't. I mean, I actually liked his acting. I thought he was funny. I don't know. I never really thought he was like, oh my God, hot. Like, I knew he was cute, but like, I feel like everybody had a crush on him between Romeo and Juliet and Titanic. And then like, wasn't he on like Family Ties at one point? Like, he was in so many things. Like, he's had such a wild career, I swear. And I have to say, I was surprised to hear Danielle say that she had a crush on Eminem and then David Letterman. I have to say that's really running the gamut on your crushes there. And, nothing wrong with being attracted to power. Just don't let it overtake your mind, Of course, Ryder got all the fan or most of the fan mail. That doesn't surprise me in the slightest. And I have to say that catfish, stalker fan story from Danielle, that is insane. That is some scary stuff. I would have loved to know how they handled that. Or did it just go away? Because sometimes it doesn't always go away, as we've seen. Okay, Will's wedding invite from a fan for him to marry her and she'd leave her family. Okay, that is commitment. I kind of love that the Corey and Sean handshake was Ryder and Ben's first. That's awesome. Okay, so I guess it's a really good thing that the producer was at Topanga Canyon and not some other exit, because we never would have the name Topanga. The other options weren't that great. Never thought about the no bedtimes being so detrimental. Poor Ryder with falling asleep everywhere. And Will having such an early bedtime as a kid and then none later. Of course, Danielle had to stay up to get her hair braided. And seriously, people, if you have to go to bed during the day, blackout curtains, 0 blackout curtains, that Danielle knows what's up. That is it. Because I never understood the parents that put their kids in the bright room to go to bed early. It's now you need those blackout curtains, for real. That is a real thing. I swear the monkeys being on that is a blast from the past, and the wrestlers were always funny to have on the show. It was just kind of kooky. It was very sitcom-y feel. I think it's kind of mean that Ben would eat smelly things before kissing scenes. What? And then it's but that is, like Danielle said, a very long-term relationship situation. But still, I think in that sense, it'd be no. At that point, you'd be no, I'm not kissing you until you brush your teeth. Okay? Danielle having a crush on Ryder is so cute, and him giving her the compliment and her loving him for a hot second in life. So funny. I think it's really cool that Ben and Danielle could figure out their relationship early on and what it really was, because I feel a lot of actors don't necessarily do that. So it was really mature of them that they were able to navigate that early on. Poor Will, always lost in the middle. You'd think he was the middle child, not the oldest. But the oldest usually does get the short end of the stick. Of course, Ryder was always in a relationship and missing his girlfriend. How cute is that? And I do think it's really nice that Ryder and Will can debate, because I feel that's a lost art that a lot of people don't really do nowadays. So I think that's really cool they can. Although I kind of feel Danielle might be their mediator too. I think it was really nice how I think Boy Meets World could represent different religions and people and kind of stay, true to the middle of the road, because I feel a lot of shows, especially now, really don't do that. They very much lean one way or the other. So I think that's one of the special things about Boy Meets World, because they always just manage to stay in the middle, Okay, so Melrose Place junkie for Will is hilarious. X-Files friend Danielle does and doesn't surprise me. And of course, Ryder was the reader and movie guy. But I love that he eventually watched Friends and Sopranos, of course, on DVD, not on TV. Oh my God, so the injuries. Okay, so that crazy roller coaster really was dangerous. And poor Ben. And then, oh my God, Danielle slicing her leg open, but she played through the pain until they said cut. What a professional. Bravo. And Will's wasn't even that bad, but of course OSHA, they took him to the hospital. And I think it's crazy that his guardian got mad, but it's maybe his guardian shouldn't have been trying to sneak away anyway. So things happen for a reason. I think it's really cool that Ryder can give his son Indy a real true perspective on what it's like to be famous, because it does seem like Indy does have that spark. So it's really important to have somebody who can give you that real world knowledge of the situation. And Danielle's kid with the story about mommy being on the plane, adorable. Okay. So this was a longer video, I know, but there was a lot to cover. They did a lot of podcasts until they dropped the episode podcast. So if you liked, feel free to like and subscribe, and I will see you next time.